The RPA Today Show, hosted by Rob Howze and Wilton Rogers. The show that brings you the latest insights on RPA, robotic process automation, and how it's impacting every industry, as well as interviews with companies that are currently winning big with this technology. You'll also hear from other industry leaders and experts who will be sharing some of their success secrets to help you become more productive and to grow your business. This show is brought to you by Simply Automate, where we help you get more done in less time and more ease for your mind with strategic business automation. Learn more at www.simplyautomateinc.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn. If anything in this show resonates with you, please let us know by leaving a review. The RPA Today Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RPA Show, the show where you just might learn something you didn't know. I'm your host, Rob Howze, a co-host, Wilton Rogers, the automation guy, the guy who teaches people how to do things better, faster, easier. He shows people how to work with robots, digital employees, quotes. And we have somebody, Wilton, today joining us that has some insight on technology as well.
Yes. Very excited. I'm on a show with two Robs. That's pretty darn cool. Two cool Robs, right? So that's right. It's really cool. And
R squared.
R squared. Yeah, I just can't wait to read his bio. Because when I took a look at him and did my research on him, I was like, oh man, I marked this one on my calendar, right? Just to be able to sit down and talk and just hear from someone like him. Yeah, this is going to be a packed show, man. So let's get going.
Well, Rob Cranston, the president and COO of CANA, is with us, ladies and gentlemen. And Rob has a lot of experience, 28 years in logistics and supply chain operations. So I think you might have a little insight in regards to how people can do things better, faster, easier. I think you and Wilton may have some things in common. Rob, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. Everyone who's listening, it's a pleasure for you. I'm telling you this futuristically because Rob is going to drop some wisdom. He's going to share some insights that if you actually listen, take note, and take action, you might move forward. Wilton, you got anything to say before we kick off?
I think these are the podcasts that, that businesses really have to take a listen to, just because there's when we meet people like Rob and we have these podcasts, there's so much information that they can share within a short period of time, right? Mm-hmm. For people to prepare people to be able to have a better understanding of what's here and what's coming. And I think that's what's important. So no, man, read his bio so people can know what we're talking about.
Well, I'm actually going to hand it off to Rob because his insight he gave was really nice. But I'm gonna let him share. Rob, why don't you kind of share like first, who you are, then why you do what you do. It's always a great combination.
Yeah, guys, again, this is super. And anytime we talk about automation, we're talking speed. But when you mentioned 28 years, that seems like an eternity ago of just that timeline, right? We all have that in perspective. And isn't it interesting that now in this time and world that we're in automation and the digitized industries, in industries that never really concentrated or CapExed out of having really digitization as part of their plan, are now adopting that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really such a cool, especially in the world of logistics and logistics automation, guys. So again, Rob Cranston, CEO of and President and COO of CANA, and I tell you, I started this company 14 years ago. Actually, this is our 14th year, so 14 years actually comes in November. But what's so interesting is that journey up to starting was all about, and continues to be about, discovery and being out there on the silver lining of questioning whether or not automation, operations, development, talking about software development, all that baked in, does it make sense for a company to adapt and really to perform based off that type of planning baked into their operations. So I started out I was a Marine Corps officer, very, very blessed to be part of a journey that was the first 10, 12 years of my life. And I had a chance to, as a logistician, to really touch on how that world of both the operationalized out of the tip of the spear of using different types of logistics works in that space and that world of DoD, and then cut my teeth at two different organizations as in business development, project management at Booz Allen, and then Kellogg, Brown and Root, and both those create our journeys, right? All those events and experiences allow us to say, get to an aha moment. And coming up on 14 years ago, that aha moment came, and I was like, ooh, you know what? I think we can do it. And I say the think becomes really the higher part of this, and thinking of, hey, what's the purpose? Right. So why, Rob, you mentioned, is the purpose part and the purpose-driven component of the culture of CANA that I wanted to create with a few others. And doing that was being in a virtual environment. So, my gosh, we could be on a kayak, we could be out hiking, camping, and be on client meetings or our own meetings, which gives us the opportunity to be doing the things we love to do with our clients, and allows us in compartmentalizing our why statement. So, yeah, the dynamic of, and I can get into that in a little bit, but of CANA is just, we have, you guys, we were talking about this earlier, just people we just have fantastic, lovely, brilliant people on staff who make us who we are. And we are blessed, and just, we keep, it's like, okay, we say this is work. Yeah, it's work, of course, but at the same sense, it's that person, that passion behind it.
Yeah. Purpose-driven work doesn't feel like work. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm singing with the choir with you. This is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. And so, what would you say the biggest problem CANA solves? What's the biggest problem you solve?
Yeah, there's a great question, Rob. And when you look at we are built on project management, and in both the federal and commercial space, we do about roughly 65% or so federal work, and that's services and solutions in typically logistics problems or operational problems that don't necessarily title as problems, but they're being enhanced, or they're being optimized, or they're being developed. Commercial space, we do the same. But I would say that when you look at really enhancing and developing with our clients, all of this, we call them shiny objects, right? You guys know shiny. I mean, you got, whether that's unmanned systems, shiny objects. There's shiny objects that really may not have a whole lot of value to the operation, but sure is advanced in its technologies. So what we do is we bring that down a notch, say, okay, hey, does this really fit your operation? And if so, then yeah, we customize it in a way with data, and we cut across 4 different lines within CANA. We have we have an analytics team. We've got a logistics operations team, which really is our program project management group, and then we've got a developer team. And then wrapped around that is the 4th, and that's internal, is our business operations. And all that together really creates this ability for us to operate efficiently as a small business. I mean, we're 40 folks strong, and it's very comfortable, very good size, and we're very happy with that.
Wow.
And I think that, being in it for so long, developing that type of atmosphere, not only internally, but also with partners. 'Cause obviously, you've been in this industry, you had to learn from other places, other people, other partners, obviously, right? So, creating that culture, especially now in the tech world, I think it's so important, because people can get thrown and go down a rabbit hole, right? They can go down and just sort of get lost in that technology and not really have an understanding. But when you have built a culture like that, where you've already have that experience, and you have those employees that live that culture, you can make a change real fast. So having 40 plus employees and have that type of atmosphere that says a lot. That says a lot.
It does. It does. You take care of the people, then the process, and then add the right technology. People first, have the right processes. Now it's time to add the technology so we can optimize and all those great things.
Yeah, and right. That's it. And Wilton, that's well said, right? So when you look at process, which really I find is interesting for your audience out there, right? Those that are aspiring or want to start up in a way that gives them and builds upon that triad, if you will. The process part, you got to get that right. I mean, you really have to get that right. And the reason being is because you're going to spend so much time later trying to fix something that might have been just ad hoc in that process. And you guys know this all too well. It's that, my gosh, if I could have, and we should have taken the time to invest in that initial process. And for example, maybe it's a project management practice or it's a sales practice, to make sure that, internally, it's kind of like A/B testing, right? You do it and you got to make sure internally, you got to make sure that, my gosh, it works.
Right.
And boy, once it starts working, you can really advertise that to clients that, hey, this is the process we use. And this is just another example, for them to use as a use case or case study to say, oh, okay, I see how you do it.
Right. Right.
We've run into those issues where people don't have their processes, built the right way. And they call on us to sort of automate. It's like, you can't automate, you got to fix it first. He's like, what do you want us to do? It's like, making sure that it's like, how are you even doing this sometimes, So making sure that you have that built out can make life will make life so much easier.
Yeah.
Not only your business, but everybody involved, from your employees to the client to the customer, whatever the case may be. It's so important. And I think that's where people get lost sometimes. And you said that, after years and years of having it that way, it's like, man, you look back and said, you could have said, if you would have just figured this out, you would have done this, been able to do this in the past, whatever the case may be. But we see a lot of those broken processes quite often.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, right. In OpEx, I mean, when you're calculating, hey, what's our total cost of business and against what you're building, that might be a solution, that might be an investment criteria around, staffing that you need, or that outward focus of staffing that you're going to need in, as you project, as an organization builds itself. What type of capabilities that person have? What are their, those skill sets? Are they current? You guys know this all too well in the AI community, a human behavior community. My gosh, that's starting to get into textbooks over the past 3-4 years of such an interesting, intriguing environment that has so many layers of ethics in it. And let alone the technology is a tool to an analytics or a machine learning professional.
Wow. So, this is the RPA show. So we definitely love talking about RPA. Even more than talking about it, we love hearing our guests' thoughts on RPA. I know you have some thoughts on RPA, but I want you to share some of those. That's robotic process automation for those who are trying to break it down.
Yeah, for everybody out there, I got to tell you, when you look at business process automation and when a company advertises the human part of that, human behavior, human consumption, human in the loop, analyst in the loop, if you would, what you guys are showing to us out here that are either struggling with a way of implementation of an automated, it could be an object or a technology specific to maybe a software design, you're never going to lose the human in the loop, to me. And I think that understanding, and Wilton, you were saying it earlier, of really, when you have the individual is so important, that the training, their method of how they employ that training, and then their own characteristics of who they are as a professional that embrace that. I think you guys in that way, and as you work in, as I've seen, in employing the automation piece, that is just such an important part of industry's success, like ours.
It's when we first started with our company, we were really trying to talk to businesses about what we do, and we're doing. Obviously we're doing pretty good now, but we're still struggling with it because that information of what it can actually do, they can't relate. It's hard for them to relate. What we found out lately, probably this is really taken off the last 5-6 months, is that those businesses that work on processes, that understand technology and what technology to use, what's the best process, the best way to, understand that part, and then they learn what RPA can do. Those companies that they're representing or they work for, we see an instant impact of what they're doing because they understand how it works, and they already know the logic within their own environment, within their own company.
Mhm.
So being able to put this together once they understand how it works, it's been seamless. And I think probably the last 4 or 5 months, we've been seeing a bigger jump in businesses and consultants know that world, right? That process, that the business analyst practice, so they can take to their company and take to their clients. It's been a game changer. It's been a game changer. So, I think, this is something that we know building those relationships are so important because this is another tool in their toolbox they can offer all their clients. Does that make sense? So, yeah, it's been bigger.
Yeah, I love it. And I think they're in Wilton, the one of the things that exploring longer, a lot of folks, if it's transactional relationships, right? There's a lot of those.
Mhm.
But when you look in that short term, and a lot of times that's in the sales channel. When you get into, when we get consultants in to look at our process, we don't just look at it as a consultant and say, okay, hey, we want to look at a longer term relationship. And we do this not with them, but we do this with our partners. We're a prime, we're a sub in the federal space, in the commercial space. And a cool part of that is that longevity. And we're talking about 5, 10, 15, 20-year plans of being with that partner. So one of the things is, and that can be selective, but that's okay. I mean, making sure that in that that there's this convergence on making sure inside that the value of each continues to grow, and that we know what each other's expectations are.
That's big. That's big. You recently, I think you went to a conference and there were some RPA innovations that you've seen recently. What's some of those innovations that you've seen?
Oh my gosh. So robotic, you guys. So here's what's going on in the world. As it opens up, and this is so interesting, especially where you guys sit in manufacturing. When you took in the world, I know you're beyond manufacturing, though, being that kind of core area of automation, process improvement, but automation implementation is that when you look at the way, and this is specific, this was Modex 2020, this is down in Atlanta. And Modex typically has third-party logistics providers, robotics companies, integrators, freight forwarders, kind of that community of practice that really is very special because it does infuse a lot of the best practices, a lot of use case tracks. But what I think is so fascinating this time around, if you go to the booths of a lot of the companies in different types of verticals, they said, this isn't a logistics, this is an automation, this is a robotics, this is a integration technology conference. That's what's going on. And for a lot of folks, that's tough because that's a lot of money. For example, of putting a robotic arm into a warehouse that does pick, pack, sorting, and creates and optimizes and takes that human out of the loop, right? So yeah, I think what is going to continue to be the dialogue is how the mid to small cap type companies can adapt to robotic innovation to be efficient as what would be the larger.
Yeah. And what we've seen, the most effective way that we've seen is when a mid-sized company, even a smaller company, let's talk about the mid-size, when they implement the technology and then the people who used to do those repetitive, mundane, need to be done, but not necessarily need to be done by them actions. Once we move them from that, you then optimize the process, speed it up, heighten the efficiency, and now those people can go do other things within the company to add more value to themselves and the company and everyone around them. So like it's a win-win, win-win-win, and it just keeps winning. Yeah. So if you do it the right way, it works out the right way, but you have to do it in sequence and really make sure that you're doing your due diligence.
Yeah, I mean, that's the front end investment that, for example, with us, we have a rollout of a new warehouse management solution, and it's heavy services based, but we've got a technology and software component that's an implementation module specific to that warehouse. And what's interesting, Rob, to your point, is that there's that initial kind of investment, right? So at this show, it's like, okay, well, the initial investment by a robotics company is what? And then that back end, okay, where do I break even? And then where's my return on investment component to that? But a lot of that comes with really being nestled in or buried into that operational plan initially. So that, and oh, by the way, you're bringing in not just the technologists of the company, you're bringing in the business side, you're bringing the back office. I mean, what happens a lot of times is when you don't include some of these important decision makers, the company then goes back in and goes, oh my gosh, what the heck are we doing?
Right, right.
The ops side's going sales side to back off, like, how are we doing this? And
Right.
who's in charge?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. So what is your change a little subject here? Who is your ideal client? I mean, who do you really have a niche in, or just where's your focus?
Yeah, so ideal client is not necessarily, we can sit there and say, oh, here's the, CANA is involved in several vertical market or industry development, to include public-private partnerships and the growth of electric vehicle installation and infrastructure to mobility hubs and how that's implemented. But really it goes back, the ideal customer client is somebody who has that, it's the individuals. It's the individuals inside those teams within a company that we look for that are really focused on operationalizing their environment. And they're doing that through automation. They're doing that through innovation spikes. They're doing that through analytics. And, if we can really hit on a tune where we're that component of theirs as a business partner, that's where the longevity comes in. Because, Wilton, to your point, and Robbie, is that, hey, and when you get that as a component of partnership, they realize, and there's a trust piece. My goodness, that trust piece. That you guys are doing exactly what those deliverable based pieces are that you did. But boy, once that happens, there becomes that ability for them to go do those other things that they really do. That those hot buttons, right? And it's so cool to watch our teams. And I'm just, gosh, I keep hitting our team, but our teams do that, and it's like we've had to turn down work because of that success. Because guess what? I can't duplicate Wilton and Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but you can't because it's a services-based component, right? So, yeah.
Man, that's
good. Huge. I think you hit it. It's that once that I won't say skepticism, but yes, skepticism, but also that trust does happen, like you were saying. It's really amazing to see how fast things can happen.
Yeah.
And they just sort of, okay, they have that trust, they have the priority, that sort of, put things in order. And when you have that, I mean, man, it's a game changer. And so, that trust does take a while. And I think building with the atmosphere that you have has made it a lot easier for people to jump on board, right? So
14 years, man, 14 years. And it sounds like you have embedded the Chick-fil-A culture. Hello. If you think about, if you think about the fast food industry, and everyone knows that the greatest culture in fast food history is Chick-fil-A. And I wonder why, this is the case, and why they do so well. Why does Chick-fil-A do so well? Why do they do better than the ones that are open 7 days a week? Right. And so, Rob, you're duplicating. I'm bringing Chick-fil-A up. I do like their food too, but I'm bringing them up because what you're doing, man. I can just tell the way you edify your team, the way you talk about them, and then your due diligence on delivering good service. I mean, that's just great, Rob. Yeah. So, thank you for doing good work. Tell me this: give your best business advice to somebody. They're just getting started. They've already been in business, but you give them some business advice. What will be your best piece of business advice that you would give someone?
Slow down. You don't need to be in every industry. You don't need to have a component of product or service that you need to tell the world that you can do everything, because that'll crush you.
Well said. It's so true. 100% true. So Rob, what kind of, people want to contact you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can visit our site, canallc.com. We're on all major social media sites. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and by all means, we would love to talk to those that are interested in the world of and just in general analytics and logistics operations and how that is continuing to emerge. So yeah, those would be the the social media platforms you guys can.
That's good, man.
We'll definitely have a little show notes.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes too. Take care of your people. Understand your process and put in the right technology. Oh, and slow down.
Let's slow down.
Thanks, Rob. Till next time.